So welcome to the Youth Ambassadors panel discussion. And today's theme is, for the symposium, is acceptance, belonging, and the power of connection. Can the youth lead the way? And today we have an excellent panel of experts who are all of representatives of our Youth Ambassador program who are going to share, enlighten, and give us some insight and hopefully direction as well on where we can go in bridging those barriers and creating those connections. So welcome. We're going to start off first with the question. So if each of you could take a moment to share, what does acceptance and belonging and the connection mean to you as a young person in Cayman, and maybe share a personal experience that kind of pulls that together. If you'd like.
So I guess I'll start. So for me, I grew up in Cayman, and it was a matter of being, feeling like an important member of school, feeling like an important member of church, feeling like an important member of the wider community, and all the activities available to us as kids. And the thing about acceptance and belonging and connection is that they all equate to feeling adequate, feeling good enough, feeling like a valid member, an important member. And I experienced that wholeheartedly throughout childhood, throughout adolescence, throughout teenage years, and just growing up in Cayman. Once I left, it really did give me a better idea of what it did mean to feel accepted, what it meant to feel like I belong, because now I'm in a new country, going to school, have to make new friends all over again, have to find new communities, have to find new activities. So that kind of allowed me to really appreciate how much I was accepted growing up.
For me, acceptance, belonging, connection, that means feeling seen and also having a sense of mutual understanding between whether it be me and my peers, me and my community. And, you know, in the ideal world, it means to me my island feeling like it's for like the people. And whether that be community support, laws and policies in place to either protect us or benefit us, and opportunities for us that's driven for our success. To the second part of the question of when did I feel that, going back, so I'm a youth ambassador, and I found the youth ambassador program back when COVID just started, when I had to move back from university abroad because of that, but also there was things happening in my family. And that was a very low moment in my life, and I didn't realize that until I found the Youth Ambassadors program. And so when you join, they give you a presentation about what it's all about. And I was like, this is what I've been needing. This is what I've been looking for, and I didn't realize it. And I'm so passionate about mental health and helping others. And I feel like I kind of sort through my personal issues by helping others. And so that's the part where I felt empowered and accepted and belonged. Yeah. Thank you.
Jared.
Well, I would say a personal experience I had about acceptance and belonging is where I have a strong support system in my school, which has helped me to feel supported and safe at school at all times. And I'm able to get assistance when I'm having a difficult time. When I'm having a bad day, I'm able to see the counselor, educational psychologist, principal, and a list of others who are able to help me.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, so we've mentioned community supports, such as church and youth programs, parents, school supports, as well as nonprofit, like you starting YAP. And you mentioned...
I didn't start. I can't take that. I joined it.
Joining, yeah. Like, my apologies. But it was also during critical times that you all have mentioned, going off to university, coming back home during COVID, that you found that was a challenge, right? Can you share with us maybe some times where you found that those resources either weren't there or there was barriers that you had to navigate. How did that impact your well-being?
Well, for me, I was kind of used to not having support, and it's not necessarily that the support wasn't there, but I guess Cayman culture kind of is like sweep it under the rug, and also like where my parents are from, like it was kind of like that where you don't really address, like you don't really complain to say, you know, they're always like, there's always, like it could always be worse. And so I kind of got used to just being my own support system or just to keep pushing even if I'm not the best. So it's kind of becoming desensitized to that. And so when I did understand what support looked like for others, that's when I felt the sense of, okay, maybe my support system isn't the best, or maybe I'm not utilizing it in the way I should be. Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things I found a challenge was I really like reassurance, and I really like having consistency and stability in support. And sometimes it wasn't there like enough in order for me to understand that, yeah, no matter what, at the end of the day, I can depend on this being a source of like, you know, encouragement and strength, and like, you know, somebody to be behind me moving forward. It's like sometimes it's like, all right, today I'm gonna have to do it by myself. Today I'm gonna have to walk alone. Like the journey continues with or without this support being in front of me and or messaging me or talking to me in any way. So I think reassurance was really something that kind of affected my journey in some sense. And I also feel like there were times when, I don't think this entirely applies to me, but there were times where it's like one factor or another affected the perception of my ability, and then it shifted people's willingness to show up. So whether it be sometimes it's like, oh, you're too young, oh, you're a female, oh, you're not experienced enough, oh, you don't have a degree yet. It's like, you know, different things affected perception and just willingness to continue showing up, because it's like, it was pretty at first, but now I'm not as interested. Okay. So things like that I found to be challenging.
Thank you. Jaren, what about you?
Well, it was a huge challenge for me in primary school, because when I was in primary school, I didn't really have a strong support system that I have now. And it was even more difficult as I was, diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD, and anxiety. So it was a very huge challenge for me with not having that kind of support system that would be able to assist me.
Okay. I heard a couple of keywords in your sharing, not knowing what our resources are. And having to rely on yourself and whatever coping mechanisms you would have. And obviously, as a young child, that's still developing, right? We heard inconsistency. So not necessarily there's a resource there, but they don't always show up, or you don't know if they're accountable, or you can count on that resource. And then not being understood, right? So those are definitely barriers that we continue to see in our community, in our society, that young people are navigating. As young persons, as individuals who have started your journey to navigate some of these challenges, do you have any suggestions to share with the audience and even young people who are listening and trying to figure out how do I still cope with what I have to cope when my parents aren't showing up when I need, or my counselor or my teacher? Any suggestions on how do we now move towards that?
I think an important part about that is setting the goal for yourself. And it really does start with having something you want to work towards. And once you have something you're working towards, it's like, you'll try your best to get to that end goal. So whether it be that you woke up today, decided, hey, I want to join this program, or I want to be able to accomplish this task or this thing, it means that now you need to research. And once you start taking those steps and actually trying, then you can actually make some sort of progress. Without trying, without setting the goal, and without just taking a leap of faith, you can't really move. So I think those are key things in order to like progress through that.
Yeah, I like what she was saying. And to add to that, you know, it's no one is going to fight harder for you than yourself. And if you're not fighting for yourself, how do you expect the support to rise up and also be there to support where you need? So I think if you're in a situation where you don't feel supported, then your surroundings, that's not going to change. You have to remove yourself from that. You have to go go and find something new that might be uncomfortable, whether it be, you know, trying counseling, therapy, speaking to a friend that always lets you know that they're there, but you say, oh yeah, thanks, but then you just leave it like that surface level, you know, and trust is scary, especially when it's something you're new to, but you're never going to see new results in the same situation. So it's taking that risk, you know, putting your trust in someone, and also trusting yourself, trusting your gut as to who you can go to, and build your support system and fight for yourself. I think that's the best advice I could give. Yeah.
Well, I would advise persons, you know, to, like you said, try and find the support, because if you just look one place and you don't look the other place, then you won't be able to find any. So you have to keep searching and searching until you are successful.
Right. I think that's a good segue into, you know, part of what we're doing today as well. We are living in a world of technology. So your generation definitely, I mean, anytime I need something done with an iPad or a phone, I look for somebody under the age of 20, because I have no idea how to do those things. How do you see the use of technology? Because we've had different discussions of how technology, the pros and the cons of using it in terms of ensuring your mental health being, how it's impacting. How do you see the youth being able to utilize technology in terms of managing and breaking some of those barriers?
So technology obviously is a tool. It's a resource. It's something you can lean on to support you and help you with almost anything in life these days. And it definitely has helped people to be able to research, help people to find information, help people to find inspiration. And aside from that, once they have found, you know, these inspiration, they've been inspired, they're motivated, they're ready to go. Now they can actually reach out to people, communicate with them outside of physical spaces, outside of like, you know, dedicated programs and activities, in order to continue the conversation and figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How do we get to where we want to be? Like, say this symposium today, it wouldn't have been planned if it wasn't for emails, if it wasn't for phone calls, if it wasn't for posting on social media and stuff like that to reach people and like build a community so that we can all come together for one, you know, big goal that we want to achieve. So I think it's very beneficial to anyone, but especially younger people who enjoy that like offline connection, which is technically just outside of physical spaces, but obviously online.
For me, I think it helps find support networks beyond your physical community that you're in. And especially being in a small island, a small community, there might be other resources out there that might not be available to us here just because we don't have the demographic, the market, the resources, the professionals to help us. And also, I think it can be utilized in a way to look for examples. What's working in other communities? How can we adapt that here to best suit our culture and our people? Not exactly copy and paste,
Right.
Because you're going to have to see, and it's trial and error.
Right.
And I think that that's something that we need to do more of, whether it be in the mental health space, you know, the environmental space, workforce. And I think that promoting social media literacy is also important, because it's also teaching the youth and anyone who uses social media the right way to use it, and like how to get the most out of it in a responsible, effective way, and also online safety, I think is important as well, because just as much as it's powerful to do good, it's also powerful in the reverse side. And I think it's also an opportunity for mentorship and collaboration between youth and adults for that intergenerational discourse. And I think that, we are already using it in a great way. And there's definitely, we can continue to use that. It's definitely beneficial.
Well, I would say that I would consider social media to be very beneficial because you can go out there and find the support, also participate in different extracurricular activities that you're interested in to help the social well-being of individuals.
Thank you. So, in terms of taking the lead, how do you see, or what recommendations do you have for the youth taking the lead as we move forward in trying to bridge these gaps and create those bridges so that we're not disconnected and that we are actually there for each other and paying attention?
I can go. I think a big thing with taking the lead is speaking up. And whether it be that you're speaking up with a room of 2 people, a room of 5 people, a room of 100 people, you have to speak up. Whatever it is you need to say it. And if someone needs to say, hey, maybe we can adjust it, maybe we can shift it, maybe you want to change this, maybe you want to add this, then you can actually know what's happening. But without speaking up, no one's going to know, what's on your mind, what your idea is, what you would like to do, and how you would like to proceed and help in any way. So I think it does depend on speaking up a lot.
Yeah, can youth lead the way is the overarching question. And the answer is yes, the youth can lead the way, but we also have been leading the way this whole time. It's just a matter of, have you been listening? Have you, been paying attention? Are you listening to understand, or are you listening to reply? And I think that's something that we need to realize is that, like she said, someone could be leading the way where it's just a one-on-one. It could be on a smaller scale. And those small impacts, those small things that you do creates an effect, a ripple effect, because by word of mouth, someone will go and say what they've learned. Someone will share that message, and, just changing one person's mindset, just giving them that support, giving them that sense of connection to you definitely goes a long way, because we're humans we're beings of connection, and that's definitely needed, especially in a small community.
Well, I would advise young people, yes, young people can lead the way. And if you are going through challenges, don't be scared to reach out to somebody. Try and reach out to somebody, because then they won't know what you are going through if you just stay quiet. And so, like myself, for example, when I was going through challenges, I reached out to persons, because many people say, oh, because you have, mental health disorders, you can't be successful. That's not true. If I can be the future premier of this country, then everybody can be successful.
The power of vote.
Yeah. I mean, even to that was perfect, because you can be the leader of your own self. And I think a lot of people forget that, especially, I'm really not a fan of public speaking. And so for people when they hear leadership, they think a huge crowd of people following behind, or a huge crowd of people watching them, it's that pressure. But also you can take that small step, which is probably, that small step might be harder for us, which is being proud of who you are, getting to know who you are, working on those goals you keep putting behind or putting to the side, I'll get to that, let me go help someone else. There's a reason why they tell you on the airplane to put your mask on first before you put someone else's on. Yeah. And I think we need to apply that to our everyday life. and our small choices and our big choices is showing up for yourself and being the leader of your own life.
More, any other suggestions?
I think these guys have said quite a lot of good things. But another thing is to, like, once you speak up, also engage and be, ready to work, because it's like, it's one thing to just say the stuff, but like, if you're not ready to like take up your hammer, take up your toolbox and get to work, then it's like, you said all of that and what? So it's about being ready for action as well. And, never shying down from the opportunities that are presented, because I do think that we are privileged here to have a lot of opportunities. For example, this program, Youth Ambassador Program, to practice, to learn, to grow, to be mentored and supported, and have opportunities to build this connection, community, and feel accepted and belong and all of this stuff. So it is about stepping up and utilizing opportunities that are available and presented, because the opportunity can only last so long. So grasp it whenever you see it. Take advantage of everything that you can, that's available to you. And once you do take advantage of these opportunities, reflect on the experiences, because experiences can only go so far in the moment. But moving forward, you can use what you've learned to apply to something else. You can move on, do another program, do another initiative, start your own program, become premier. So there's so much you can do once you apply lessons, once you apply, the strength that you've gained from all of these things that have happened. And I just think that's important to move forward as youth leaders.
Another advice I would give is also to create resources. Like, for example, I am one of the founders of the VIP Club, which is held at John Gray High School in the Inclusion Department. And this was created back in 2019. So this year will be 5 years since it's been in service. And what it provides is for students who feel uncomfortable to be in the cafeterias outside during snack and lunchtime. They can be up there, they can study for their exams, they could complete their SBAs, homework, and they can eat their lunch and snack up there. They can receive assistance from the special needs. They can receive assistance from like the counselors, the psychologists, and those different individuals that are able to assist them. So, and I'm really happy that this club has now increased in numbers, and I'm hoping now that it will continue to increase once I leave John Gray. So,
Thank you. Well, I think each of you have definitely demonstrated how young people may take the lead, but also demonstrated to us as the adults that you do have a voice, that you have the power to change. We need and we must give you the opportunity. And I think in conversations prior to this, we talked about, putting your voice to vote, right? You are the next generation. You are the next leaders and ministers and CEOs of our country. And so if we saw it with the environment when the youth got together and they voiced that they didn't want that cruise terminal, right? You marched, you did what you have to do. I think the Youth Ambassador Program gives you that voice as well to mental health. So one day we will, be talking about different challenges, because we will all be being compassionate and connecting and providing the resources and supports to everyone that needs to have access to that. Any closing words before we maybe open up to a couple of questions?
This is backtracking a little bit, but I think it's important, when we're talking about feeling connected, a lot of us put programs out there, a lot of schools do outreach to benefit the youth. Mm-hmm. But the marginalized youth, which is the target audience, doesn't actually get reached because they don't have the resources to get that, to know it's not accessible. Right. How would they know that system is out there, that club is out there, the transportation? How are they going to get to that? The food, so I think it's also being cognizant of how to really get into the areas of our community where the youth needs us and where they really need our mentorship, guidance, and support to feel connected.
Yeah.
I think one thing I want to add is that I think we should leave here with a lot of leaders in the room understanding that it does depend on those who are in a position of power, of leadership, and considered to be on this pedestal to look at the youth as a source of leadership as well. Because sometimes it comes across, may not be the reality, but it does come across sometimes that oh no, we're not looking there for our leaders. We're not looking there for these types of leaders. Just okay, but why not? If you gave them a chance and, you had to help them a bit more than someone else. I mean, yes, it's unfortunate that it was slower, but did you really lose if you had someone grow, if you had someone, become something that they probably would have never had another opportunity to do or be or anything like that? So it does have a reliance on existing leaders to look to youth some more times to find new leaders.
Any other word?
Ready for the questions? Future premier.
Yes.
Do we have any questions for our panelists?
Oh my gosh, you're so loud.
They're so quiet. That a question? Yes? Yes. Yes.
Good afternoon, panelists. The last comment regarding marginalized youth, I would be very much interested in terms of how the Alex Panton Foundation has been strategizing in terms of how you actually reach many of those young people who are not necessarily in the limelight, but as we said, in the margins, on the margins, not necessarily want to even speak about issues of mental health.
Thank you for your question. So as a youth ambassador with the Youth Ambassador Program, APF is our parent organization. So I personally cannot speak to everything that Alex Panton does, and I'm sure that they have the outreaches, but just speaking from what I've seen in my experience with the Youth Ambassadors Program, originally the club does happen outside of school hours, but the only school club we had was at CIS, and it's just recently that we rolled out to multiple schools, John Gray, UCCI, Clifton, Prep, so that's a way where we're reaching a wider demographic of youth, especially Caymanian. And, it's very encouraging to see that, especially because, I went to John Gray and I would have loved to have been in the Youth Ambassador Program for longer, especially during those years where I was still not understanding the things that I was going through. And so that's one way I see them doing an outreach. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would like to actually throw a challenge out to educators. Hopefully I won't get in trouble with my ministry, but to educators and teachers I know that school schedules are very tight and busy. We have to find time for math and English and so forth. But if you are not dealing with whatever it is that you need to be dealing with, it doesn't matter what your math page says, right? So provide opportunities for these young people to meet, like how Jaron has said, he has developed this group at John Gray, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To have that voice, allow them to speak and share what they're doing in your assemblies and gatherings, because again, they are the ones that have the tools. They are the ones that can tell us, how do we help them? So we need to make sure that we provide the opportunities for those conversations and those connections to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. The question is, Jaren, how did you arrive at the decision that you wanted to become premier in 2029?
Okay. So it was back in year 8, right? Because I'm now in year 11. So back in year 8, they were having some kind of project based on politics for, I believe it was for religious education. And then I said, seems very interesting. So then when I looked more into it, I said, sounds very interesting. And I started looking at the House of Parliament meetings and so on. So, and then also I looked at the issues that is affecting Cayman. And so then when I decided to announce my candidacy, that was back at the John Gray High School's grand opening. I calculated the years and everything, see how old I was going to be, and,
Right.
you know, when I'm ready to retire, how old I can be. So when I run for election, I'll be 22 years old.
Okay.
When I'm planning on retiring, I'll be only 42. So I'll still be young. And so, you know, then person said to me, they said, Jaren, what do you want to be? And then that's when also I decided, I said, you know what, I want to be a politician because I see issues that are affecting our country, and I want to be that change to help to deliver those issues.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to be in my district, but you have my vote. Okay, there
Sounds
we go. We're
good.
just gonna all move. But I think Jaren, he started with a question. He researched it. He went and found out what are the interests, what are the key things that I need to know to be able to take this role on. And then he put together a plan. And that is something that all of us can take away, rather than just doing, you know, things happen. Life happens. You might be on your plan and life happens and you got to kind of adjust it and switch it up a bit. But having that goal, and as I think all of you have said today, there is nothing that you cannot achieve. Your circumstances does not have to define you. And you can have access to any resources that you need once you speak up and show your voice. I want to thank each of you for sharing with us today. Is there another question? Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Quincy Brown, entertainer and broadcaster. Such a wonderful event. Thank you for facilitating this. It has been said, and as cliche as it may sound, our youth are the future. Our youth are the future. In your highly esteemed opinions, are the adults of today doing enough to ensure that all the churches in the Cayman Islands, the Honorable House of Parliament, all the non-profit organizations are filled with honors sitting on the stage right now, and the many others that's on our age now? Are our leaders today doing enough to ensure that Youthquake 2025, 2029 is possible? The young people taking over, are they doing enough to prepare you, our leaders, tomorrow? Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your question. I think I would like to tackle this along with you guys. First of all, I think the youth are today. I think the youth are now. We need to acknowledge that because we need to start acting now so that the youth can benefit in the future, because it doesn't just happen overnight. So I think we need to put the mindset that the youth are something that is prevalent today. We are the present tense, but we're also future tense. And to be quite frank, no, I do not think that the leaders of Cayman are doing enough. I'm not sure if it's the bare minimum, because, you know, the youth will go out, we are asked our opinion, and we will put a lot of time and effort to making the most of the time we have to have that platform and stage saying, you know, here is our thoughts, how this will impact us, and we give them a solution, we give them an action plan going forward. Photo ops will be done, and then they'll go back and do the exact opposite of what we had discussed in the meeting. And at the end of the day, there's many factors that go into that decision. I know it's not black and white, but also that takes away that feeling of empowerment, because, it's almost as if, why did we do that, But I definitely do think that it's never too late to change that, and that they can definitely improve on on creating those opportunities for the youth to build our future.
Okay, well, some of our leaders aren't doing enough, right? But what they can do is reach out to our young people more often and speak to them and try and see if it will help. But, they say I'm more like an old soul, so I guess that's probably why, but, but try and reach out more to our young people so that they will feel heard, So that is what I have to say.
I think it's important to reiterate what Monina said earlier, which is that the youth have been trying to lead, the youth have been speaking up, but are people listening? Are the leaders listening? So I think there needs to be some balance there where it's just like, sometimes the opportunities are presented, but is it appropriate? Is it, applicable? Does it count for what the youth actually need? And then when the youth speak up about it and say, actually now times have changed. We don't use this anymore. We use this now, and this could help. And it's just yeah, but we won't do it the old way because that's what worked. And it's just see, you're not listening now. And I think that's a problem with being able to get the impact we're looking for from youth in leadership. So I agree that there isn't being enough done because we can't see enough positive outcomes from the efforts that have been made. Not that there are no positive outcomes, but it is less than we would have expected based on how much it's just talk to us. And it's just okay, yeah, we heard you, but anyways. And they just kind of move on to something else because they just want to feel like they gave you some time of day, but after the fact it's just okay, I gave you time of day, that's all you needed. So it is a bare minimum thing.
So we need to bring these young people to the table. We need to ensure they stay at the table and continue the conversation. Right? Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all so much. I think that is a challenge really to the Alex Panton Foundation to find additional opportunities to be able to allow your voices to be heard. But don't feel that if your suggestions weren't taken up at that time, that it hasn't been valued. Because that seed has been planted and the time has to be right. Sometimes, the opportunity is there, but the time is not quite right. But the seed has been planted, and I'm sure that the persons that heard you will remember and use that information in some way later on. But thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your feelings and your suggestions, because we have leaders in the room right here that I'm sure will be taking away some of that information, and we will look for opportunities to give you in the future. So thank you. Please join me in thanking this amazing team.